That means it is 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order tonight. Susie, can you call roll, please?
Councilmember Canfield. Councilmember Chambers.
Here.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Here.
Councilmember Yankovic.
Yes.
Mayor DeVore.
I am here. Motion, please, to approve the consent agenda from tonight.
I'll make that motion.
I will support Marty.
Any discussion or changes anybody sees? Sue?
Councilmember Canfield.
Yes.
Mayor DeVore.
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
Councilmember Yankovic.
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers.
Yes.
All right. Citizen discussion. This is going to be for items not on the agenda, so no agenda item. If you do want to dial in on a phone, you just need to press *9. If you're on the video, you can click the participant screen and raise your hand. Mike is going to keep a list. We're going to go in order. It's not going to be a citizen discussion. It's going to be comments. The council will listen. We'll not get into a back and forth. I will be timing you. The limit for public comment is 5 minutes per person. I'll give you a warning at the 4-minute mark and allow you to finish up your comments. And then first, before we do that, Susie and I have some stuff to read. Susie, do you want to go first?
Sure. All right. I have some emails that I'd like to read into record. And the first one is, Dear Lowell City Council members and fellow residents of Lowell, as a homeowner within the city of Lowell, I would like to formally and sincerely thank our city manager, Mr. Mike Burns, for responding both transparently and appropriately to the misguided and insensitive handling of the public interest matters as demonstrated by the former Chief of Police, Mr. Steve Bucola. I applaud his resignation and have newfound confidence that this city is intent on moving in the right direction, one based on respect for all, rather than respect for the vocal majority. The Chief of Police position should be held by one with common sense, one who avoids publicly politicizing issues, one who does not selectively disregard the concerns of citizens, and one without a criminal record. If we want the city to strive and to thrive, we must focus on taking measures that will promote cohesion amongst our residents. We must work to positively influence the negative perceptions that exist, not only in the thoughts of those outside of the city of Lowell, but in the thoughts of those who live here and suffer silently. I celebrate this positive change for our city as it is prompted much painful yet necessary dialogue. With gratitude, Jennifer Hall, 204 Lincoln Lake. And she is a resident of the city of Lowell. The next email that I received is to whom it may concern. I would like my comments read into record of the City of Lowell Council meeting. Thank you for your quick action on the unprofessionalism and disrespectful behavior of the ex-Chief Bucola. As a business owner in the downtown Lowell, the idea that the Chief of Police could be so casual and supportive of vigilant justice in our town did not sit well with me. The Lowell I know has been welcoming and supportive, and to have someone in a position of power who clearly did not applaud those ideas was disappointing to say the least. But your quick action and decision to expect better of our public officials was extremely heartening. We all have work to do better, and that starts with acknowledging that our need to be better. You have my support and thanks. Nicole Lintmuth, 216 East Main Street as your business, 10988 Southwood. Another email I received was, thank you for your decision to allow Mr. Buchla to resign. I was very concerned about his approach to the young men of Hastings. I have also been concerned about his past dealings with people in the city. I do not believe that we need young men with guns roaming our streets. I feel that he has been given ample opportunities to change his ways and has decided to continue. Thank you for your action, and I agree that it is time for him to move on. This is from Nancy Mister. Hello, I have lived in Lowell for 21 years. My husband and I both graduated from Lowell High School, as did both of our mothers. We fully support the city in a forced resignation of Steve Buchla. He has criminally and embarrassingly violated his position in 2017. He was allowed to keep his job as well as his title of chief. Now he wants to place all the blame on his departure on Mike Burns and other elected officials of our city. We are here to show that there are families in our neighborhoods that want Lowell to succeed without the cloud of justice. P.S. Black Lives Matter. Andrea Vanderjack. I am submitting, this is another email, I am submitting comment in regards to the events leading up to the resignation of Steve Buchla. I will keep this as concise as possible, and I greatly appreciate your time. Let me preface this by saying I have no love nor any sense of obligation to defending Steve Buchla. In fact, I disagree with his politics in many, many ways. So why would I spend any amount of time trying to defend him? Short answer, I'm not defending him. I'm addressing what I see as a significant flaw in the way public policy was influenced by social media. There's a common term used in large online communities, and that is the term brigading. The Webster Dictionary cites it as brigading is the act of grouping together in order to gain a vote or give the impression that the general population swings heavily to one side of the subject. In this case, the internet voters are a united brigade. With that in mind, I was slightly alarmed when I read the following post the day the controversy started. It was from a text message just left with the city manager. Feel free to call him too if you want. City manager 897-8457. I don't want good old boys walking around my main street with guns. The above message was spotted on the Grand Rapids, Michigan subreddit, which was more than 35,000 members. The account which posted this call to action is also a member of the Revolutionary Michigan, a political activist group in support of progressive policy. This message was seen by potentially thousands of people outside of our community as a top comment on a popular post. More concerning, the timing of the post coincided precisely with the city manager reporting receiving anonymous complaints. Many of the same users were directed to the police with city Facebook postings as well, where they continue to influence the local discussion. This leads me to ask, are we comfortable with angry Facebook and Reddit mobs or brigades dictating local policy? Due to the seemingly hasty decision that followed, that's exactly why what I am concerned happened. I understand the immediate situation was likely tough to navigate in the moment. I submit that comment not as a condemnation, but as a plea and warning to be wary of these tactics in future decision making. I would hope the city council manager consider their actions here, what influenced them, and how to prevent undue outside political influence on local matters. A great first step in taking genuine public comment on such issues in the future. Not what we heard, so say on Facebook. I appreciate the opportunity to do so now, but can't help but wonder if it would have been better for all involved to have had a chance before an action was taken. Thank you for your time and consideration in this matter. Jay Foreman, 830 West Main Street. This is to the City of Lowell council members regarding City of Lowell Police Department. In 1991, our family moved to the City of Lowell. While there have been many changes in the overall look of the downtown, the bones of the city, i.e. great schools, quaint shops, restaurants, and our own power company and police department were and still are a draw to our community. We have heard there is a great group of citizens who are petitioning to defund our local police department. We seem to recall there was a talk in the past to incorporate our police services into a neighboring department, and the citizens of Lowell were against this idea. We want to go on record that we are greatly opposed to defunding our police department. It would be putting our businesses and residents at risk by not having a response that is local. Please have our letter available to the City Council at their next scheduled meeting on June 15th. Thank you. Dan and Sharon Vasovic, 417 High Street. Another email I received is, Dear City Council members, I am writing to you as a member of the Lowell community. While I don't live in the city limits, I am an active member of the Lowell community, with the exception of a few years of career moves. I have lived in Lowell my entire life. My kids are and have been students of the Lowell area schools, and I am currently serving as the president of the Lowell Education Foundation. Professionally, I am a captain for a major airline, U.S. airline. I am writing to support Mike Burns' decision to dismiss Steve Bucola for the post of chief of police. The online behavior that I personally witnessed demonstrated poor judgment from the former chief and should not be tolerated from anybody in law enforcement, especially our chief. Agree or disagree with the content of his post, they promoted division on our community at a time when our leaders needed to create unity and trust. Those comments also invited a lot of folks from outside of our community to participate in our local culture that they know nothing about. Mr. Bucola's previous behaviors of defying the orders of our city manager, the police code of conduct, and the governor demonstrate an unwillingness to follow orders by publicly shaming the proper chain of command. This behavior should not be tolerated and is unbecoming someone carrying a gun and a badge. I do not tolerate it on my flight deck, and I was happy to see City Manager Burns did not tolerate it either. There are some professions that demand a higher standard. I believe law enforcement is one of those. As a side note, I was utterly shocked to see Mr. Bucola kept his employment after his previous abuse of power with the use of the Law Enforcement Information Network, LEAN, to illegally stalk a person. I believe he should have been dismissed at that time for breaking the law. Like most companies, the company I work for has a very strict online behavior policy, and I have seen pilots with regard justifiably lose their jobs. Our public servants should be held to at least this standard, if not higher. I am glad to see that this is happening in our small town, and I hope that standard continues to be held with a high regard. Thank you for all of your service. This is from Heather Cooper. Her address is 1370 Hunter's Trace, Northeast Lowell, Michigan. I have one last letter to read. This is support your local sheriff police force. Please give your local police force and sheriff some support. Black lives matter, white lives matter, all lives matter, police lives matter. Will our cities and towns suffer from lack of police enforcement because of renegades who have abused the system? They will be retaught, procedures will be changed. However, do you remember when you were a child? We were read prisms of police and firemen taking our friends. Why has that changed, or has it? Every time a policeman pulls over a car or walks up to a crowd, his life is on the line and tensions are high. I would not want their job, and apparently a lot no longer want it to. Do you blame them? They have dealt with people spitting on them, insurrection. Why must they feel when they return to their families at the end of the day? When was the last time they gave you a warning and not a ticket? Do you remember when they stopped care and filled a gas tank or gave a gift? Respect your law enforcement. Their job is the hardest in the land. When you wave to them when you pass their police car, have you waved to them when you pass their police car? Have you said hi and thank you? Let's stop being negative. Let's turn the corner. The unrest will end. Lessons will be learned. Things will be changed. Let's start being kind and tolerant. You bet you will get back what you gave. Janet Tweston, Lowell, Michigan. And that is all I have.
All right, I have a few. First one, Mayor DeVore and city councilors, my name is Parker Liu. I am a resident at 903 North Monroe Street. I wanted to write you today in light of the recent events in our community. I appreciate your time and consideration to my thoughts and concerns. First, I would like to express my support for the decision by City Manager Burns to ask for the resignation of the former police chief. When added to the information released as part of the FOIA request, it appears that the former police chief was not acting in the best interest of the community of Lowell. Moving forward, I would like to make 4 suggestions. First, I would like the City Council to ask City Manager Burns to evaluate the city's social media policy in regards to official messaging or public notification. One of my frustrations from recent events is that none of the messages posted by the city on social media are signed by the author. Knowing the specific author of a message brings authenticity and accountability. It may also be helpful to consult other municipalities about their social media policy to see if there are considerations not covered under the current policy. Second, I would like to see the City Council participate in a citizen-led discussion on how the city and community can begin to address the problems of racism, hate, and exclusion that exist in our community. Although the City Council hasn't acted in any way to discriminate towards any particular group of citizens, I think it's important that our elected leaders are part of the conversation and can help provide ways forward in a unified effort. Third, as the city manager and/or city council search for a new police chief, I would implore you to look for an individual from outside our current department that would bring an outside perspective to our community. Furthermore, I would encourage you to look for an individual with a background in diversity, inclusion, and equality in police work. Some members of our community have expressed concerns about the approachability of our police officers. Although there is no one-size-fits-all solution to improving relations with the community, I believe an outside set of eyes can bring a fresh perspective to our deficiencies and help develop plans to improve. Finally, as our city looks to move forward and learn from the current events in our nation, I would encourage the City Council to look for ways that we can restructure and refocus our police department to better achieve its goals. One suggestion would be to consider hiring a specific code enforcement officer for the city that would not only remove this responsibility from our police department, but also allow for concerns raised by citizens to be addressed quickly, consistently, and efficiently. Another suggestion would be for our police department to find ways to integrate more fully into our community through participation in community activities, schools, and businesses. As our community learns to trust and rely on our police officers, more open dialogue can occur when difficult situations such as those in the past couple of weeks happen, and respond with quick and effective change. I understand the council has many focuses and will be reviewing information from many of my fellow citizens. Ultimately, my hope is that the council addresses these concerns and understands that issues facing our nation also affect our little community. As a starter, I commend each of you for observing and participating in the peaceful protesting event at the Congregational Church this past Sunday. Your presence at that event showed that you are aware how much world events have impacted our citizens, and you are willing to be part of the change. Lowell has an opportunity to become a leader in recognizing faults and improving on them. Please help Lowell continue to be the next place to be for everybody. Sincerely, Parker Liu, 903 North Monroe. Number 2, hi Sue. I am writing in a comment for tonight's city council meeting. I want the city council and especially the city manager and mayor to know that I and my family fully back their decision to request Steve Buchla to resign his position. The simple fact is that he is in a hired position and he made the choice to defy the directions of those who he works for. I do not know of any position I have ever held where I could defy my superior multiple times and still retain my job. Steve was given many chances and he unfortunately proved himself to not be fully accountable to his position. As the chief of police, he is held to a much higher standard, and that includes presenting a neutral stance on many divisive issues while using official communication channels. Thank you. And that's from Emma Wickstrom. Number 3, to the Lowell, Michigan City Council. With everything happening in our country, we felt it was important to remind the Lowell City Council, city manager, and all listening to the meeting what the Lowell Police Department means to us as city residents. We express sincere gratitude for your years of service to the community of Lowell, and we've got your back. Having a police department is vital and important to any community. We recognize you are often the first and last when responding to a call for help, We are reassured knowing while we go about our day, you're monitoring our community and are available to assist with any needs we may have. You respond to such a variety of calls for help, missing endangered children or adults, welfare checks, motor vehicle accidents, domestic altercations, school bomb threats, drug or alcohol overdoses, suspicious activity, noise violations, burglar alarms. The variability is astounding when you begin to lay it all out. We recognize you continuously train throughout your career to ensure you are prepared for whatever needs may arise. Driving through a small town, we know we better watch our speed. We are thankful for the diligent monitoring of vehicle speeds in our town. This makes it safer for our children walking to school, pedestrians visiting the numerous small businesses, and families enjoying their neighborhoods for walks. Please keep this up. Having officers in our school allows officers to build relationships with children in a positive environment. From the DARE program to basic safety education for the younger children, we value this presence in our children's lives. You provide safe environments for annual parades, Halloween trick-or-treating, those wishing to exercise their freedom of speech, demonstrate the right to own or bear arms, school sporting events, organized runs and walks. We are thankful you give your weekends, holidays, nights, and days to ensuring the safety of the Lowell community. We recognize that officers often have the unpleasant and dangerous job of enforcing laws that they had no part in creating. It is a delicate balance ensuring that the rights of individuals are upheld while maintaining overall public safety. We believe the Lowell Police Department and all departments should strive for continuous improvement and to follow national best practices for law enforcement. We condemn actions of officers that do not follow law, policy, or basic human decency. The vast majority of officers are committed to their communities, follow the law and policy, and respect all human lives. We believe that our police department is a good investment, and our brave men and women who commit themselves to Lowell deserve to be acknowledged for their commitment and sacrifices. We support you, we back you, and pray for your safety. Thank you for your service to the community of Lowell and to our family. That's Rich and Patty Wade. Number 4, dear City Council members, as a taxpayer and resident of the City of Lowell, I am writing to say that I support the decision of the Lowell City Manager Mike Burns to ask for the resignation of Steve Bucolo. It is never easy to be put in a position where you have to terminate an employee, but this decision was necessary because of actions taken by Mr. Bucolo. I felt my safety was compromised when former Chief Bucolo condoned the patrol of untrained armed people from outside our community on the streets of Lowell. This event was not just about exercising Second Amendment rights, and we all know it. A quick computer simple search revealed these outsiders' true intent during an extremely sensitive time in our community. They wanted to push the envelope and see what would happen. The poor judgment shown by former Chief Bucolo during this event and comments made on social media were inappropriate. Since it was not Mr. Bucolo's first offense, it could not be tolerated. Mr. Burns, thank you. That is Sharon Ellison, 407 North Division in the city. All right. Dear City Council members, I'm writing to express my support for Mike Burns' decision to remove Steve Bucolo from the position of Chief of Police. As a resident of Lowell and former teacher in the Lowell area, I am both dismayed and embarrassed by his post on social media. His insubordination when he was asked to revise or remove it is inexcusable from someone in his position. Given his previous and repeated infractions of the policies set forth by the department, as well as his divisive and insubordinate social media posts over the past couple of weeks, I think it's well past time to replace him. Our Chief of Police should be setting a positive example in all public interaction and behaving in ways that will unify our community, not divide it. Thank you for helping to ensure our Chief of Police is someone all Lowell residents can have faith in, not just those who agree with it. Feel free to read this into the public record if it is helpful. Thank you for your service for our community. And that's Diane Tichy, I think. Last one. Hello, I just wanted to send my opinion to you this evening to let you know we are not in favor of defunding the Lowell Police Department. We don't live in the city of Lowell, but on the outskirts of Lowell near 4 Mile. But we do most of our business in the Lowell community, and our church is there as well. My husband has also served in law enforcement for 27 years, so we know the importance of having police departments in the city for the safety and well-being of the citizens. We do not think this would be in the best interest of the people of Lowell and pray that you will reconsider this. Michelle Theisel. And that is all I have. Susie, you have all yours done?
Yes, yep.
Okay, all right. Now we'll go to the public comment from the Zoom participants. Mike, do you have a list of raised hands or dial-ins?
I have one in right now. I have one.
All right. If you want to
Hang
raise
on.
your hand or dial in, feel free. You can have your 5 minutes of public comment. You just give us your name and address, and then
Yep.
you can go ahead and start.
Start them? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, the first one's up. I believe it's Rich Conrad.
Okay, Rich, just your name and your address, and then go ahead, please.
All right. Hello, good evening. My name is Rich Conrad. I live at 1295 Lori Gale Drive, downtown Lowell. And I essentially, my comment is, I was driving into Lowell the same day that I believe said post was commented on Facebook. And before I read the post, I saw, looked like four, I'm 33, so they looked like kids to me. I'm assuming they were over 18, and I got home and I thought it was a little awkward, but I'm like, all right, you know, they're shotguns. They don't look, they're not the scary guns some people don't care for. I get home and I looked at my phone and I saw a comment like, good for those guys. They commented, they contacted the Lowell Police Department and they asked if it was okay, and they were exercising their Second Amendment right. Okay. And then we started reading, you know, a little bit more later on that, you know, Chief Bukema was asked to resign. And I thought at face value, I said, I don't understand this. Then it came out that there was more to it. Unfortunately, I've only seen he said, she said, whatever's happening through social media. I have, and maybe I missed it, but I have not seen an official, this is what happened from Mr. Burns or the rest of the city council. Maybe that is because of a legal issue, but I've only seen said issues on social media, and that is a bit of a mess. So I feel like there's a lot of misinformation. I'm not friends with Mr. Bukema. I don't know him personally. My wife and I live in Lowell, and we feel that, I feel that, I haven't consulted my wife on this, but by not allowing, my feeling on this is by not allowing people to walk around exercising their Second Amendment rights is actually opening the door to more legal issues. And this could push the envelope with people really trying to make this into a bigger deal than they wanted to. I've seen some comments where people say that they don't want outsiders coming to Lowell and doing this. Well, what about the outsiders that liked what the Lowell Police Department did when we were pulling people over there over in Christmas time and giving them gifts? I mean, that was legal. We were able to do that. But these four kids essentially contacted the police department and asked to walk around. And they were told okay, and it was posted on social media. I felt that was okay. They weren't, I didn't see any Confederate flags. I don't support that, but I did not see the issue with it. So I would maybe like more clarification on what happened to Mr. Burns. My wife and I live in Lowell. We assumed it was a nice, you know, a conservative community. We like this. And we're more contemplating, we're scared of what is this turning into? We're going to have, what, 3-4 pot distilleries right around my house now. Do I really want my kids raised around here? What kind of place is Lowell really turning into? Pot City, USA, right next to Beer City, USA? I guess maybe I'm curious of what the future of Lowell is really looking like. Now, you know, if you take it at face value, it's looking like Lowell is anti-guns. You know, I don't plan on walking around armed with a shotgun, anything like that. By any means, I would not do anything to make anyone fearful. I personally feel more secure around people that carry, but I am hesitant, again, if Lowell is not going to make a public comment on the exact reasons. Again, maybe it's a legal issue that it's hard to not take face value that Mr. Bukema was forced to resign because he was allowing people to exercise their Second Amendment rights, and that does make me hesitant and nervous. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. You have anybody else, Mike?
Yes, Morgan Jarema.
Okay.
All on Myaard.
Good evening. Morgan Jarema. I live at 850 Mount Com in Virgins Township. I sent this letter to the city council and the police chief on June 3rd, and I want to read it into the public record. I am writing as a resident of the greater Lowell area, a school district taxpayer and Lowell Education Foundation board member, and a customer of numerous area businesses. While I appreciate the social media notification about the June 2nd protest demonstration of open carry supporters, I was disappointed and disturbed that the police department did not acknowledge the unfortunate timing of such, given the nationwide unrest resulting from the latest police killing of an unarmed, handcuffed person of color. Police departments and municipalities across the U.S. have recently issued statements on unchecked police brutality. It is the city of Lowell's turn to do so. Political tension in our city is palpable and it is growing. Racial incidents and political hostility have occurred in our mostly white city and in our mostly white schools. There is no argument that Second Amendment supporters have the right to walk streets with their guns. There is no threat to that. But there is a threat to the lives of the people of color in this country who live in fear every day of being profiled and killed. And there is a very real threat that tacit permission from our federal and, given their silence, local officials that brandishing a loaded weapon is appropriate will increase that tension and result in something far worse than any of us can conceive. As a white person in this community, I want to know the position of my police department in the city. Civilians with guns, and that is the clear optic on this, convey a dangerous message at this time. Again, police departments and municipalities across the U.S. have issued statements on unchecked police brutality. I believe it is the city of Lowell's turn to do so. Thank you.
Thanks, Morgan. Anybody else, Mike?
Yes. Brian Bode. Hang on. I'll unmute him. Okay, I think he unmuted.
Good afternoon. This is actually not Brian Bodie. This is Catherine Henry. And we are here in the city of Lowell. We came to participate in the city council meeting. But with the city council meeting being reduced to a Zoom meeting, we have dozens of supporters here, 3 of whom would like to address during public comment, all with this one single raised hand. We didn't want to flood the system with having all these people individually logging on. I myself will be speaking on behalf of myself as well as Steve Bucola. I will be addressing a letter, an email that I sent to you shortly before the council meeting started this evening. Steve Bucola worked for the city of Lowell for just shy of 25 years. He started in Lowell in November 1995 and was promoted to the chief of police in November 2013. Throughout these years, Bucola has enjoyed working with the people and businesses of Lowell. On Thursday, June 4, 2020, that came to an abrupt end. On that date, the city manager gave Chief Bucola a disciplinary action report requiring a meeting, during a meeting with the mayor and the city attorney. This so-called report accuses Chief Bucola of conduct unbecoming an officer, which includes impairing the efficient operation of the department. Number 2, allowing personal feelings to influence his professional conduct, stating that posting his personal feelings on departmental social media was affecting the department's perception within the community. And number 3, this unidentified social media violation calling the June 2nd, 2020 post, quote, unneeded personal commentary which inserted political and debatable issues which caused unnecessary concern and unnecessary negative portrayal of the city. This report continues by saying that you serve all citizens regardless of viewpoint, and your credibility as an impartial law enforcement officer is critical to your role as chief. I can no longer condone remarks made publicly which discredit your role in the Lowell Police Department and conflict with these expectations. It is our role to protect and serve, not to opine on the issues of the day. We do not insert ourselves into political issues, whether directly or indirectly. Your rhetoric and actions on these three issues are unprofessional and reflect poorly on the city and the department. This pattern of behavior is not acceptable. As for conduct unbecoming an officer, the City of Lowell Police Policies and Procedures, which I'm going to call CLPPP, states, quote, personnel shall conduct themselves at all times, both on and off duty, in such a manner as to reflect most favorably on the department, end quote. And that conduct unbecoming includes that which, quote, impairs the efficient operation of the department, end quote. So what is the most basic function or operation of the department? Well, Chapter 2 reveals that, quote, the mission of the department is to protect life and property and all rights guaranteed by law, end quote. Moreover, the CLPPP requires personnel to, quote, obey all laws of the United States and of any state or local jurisdiction, end quote. In fact, the CLPPP puts personnel on notice that, quote, unsatisfactory performance may be demonstrated by a lack of knowledge of law, end quote. The CLPPP goes one step further and even prohibits personnel from following, quote, any order that they know require them to commit an illegal act, end quote. Since the contested portion of the social media post is what allegedly, quote, impaired the efficient operation of the department, end quote, we must look at what it said. As Mayor DeVore pointed out, he wanted the last sentence removed, which read, we at the Lowell Police Department support the legally armed citizen and the Second Amendment.
Catherine, that's 4 minutes.
Thank you. I'm speaking for the both of us. As referenced above, Lowell Police must act in a way to reflect favorably on the LPD, the city's law enforcement agency. Such law enforcement necessarily includes the protection of, quote, all rights guaranteed by law, end quote. Among others, the U.S. Constitution secures in the Second Amendment, quote, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, end quote, while the Michigan Constitution in Article 1, Section 6 also guarantees, quote, that every person has the right to keep and bear arms, end quote. Chief Buccola worded that social media post to both give notice to the people of Lowell as to what the men were doing, but also to remind everyone that as a law enforcement agency, the LPD supports the citizens who are lawful in their use of firearms and the constitutional right to do so. To state anything to the contrary would have violated the mission of the LPD of protecting all rights guaranteed by law. Indeed, Chief Buccola would have been subject to discipline for, quote, unsatisfactory performance as demonstrated by a lack of knowledge of that law, end quote, which necessarily includes the constitutional protections guaranteed to all citizens. In fact, Chief Buccola has the duty to ignore any order or directive that would require him to commit an illegal act, such as denying those men their Second Amendment rights. But more than that, as a public officer, not police officer, a public officer such as yourselves, Chief Buccola took an oath to, quote, support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, end quote. In fact, every single public officer in the city of Lowell and all across the state of Michigan takes that same oath of office as required by Article 11, Section 1 of the Michigan Constitution. So calling Chief Buccola's social media post, quote, conduct unbecoming, end quote, and an act, quote, impairing the efficient operation of the department, end quote, is the farthest thing from the truth. In fact, his statement shows nothing but how faithful he is to the oath he took when becoming a police officer. For every single public officer, council member, city manager, city attorney, etc., who was involved in punishing Chief Buccola for explicitly following his oath of office is him or herself violating that exact oath of office they each took themselves. That'd be you guys. If we continue this discussion further, we will also reveal the myriad of federal and state statutory violations of which those same Lowell public officers are guilty for such acts. Calling the LPD support of the Constitution or any provision thereof personal feelings or political debate is therefore void of all legal authority and even common sense. It is not a personal feeling, nor is it political for a public official, let alone the law enforcement agency of a community, to publicly support the Constitution. To state that reveals either a willful disregard for the said Constitution or an intolerable ignorance of the same, especially considering the oath each of Lowell's public officials took to explicitly support both the U.S. and Michigan constitutions. For any of you to publicly reduce such support to, quote, personal feelings or political debate is nothing less than dereliction of duty. By forcing an immediate resignation of Chief Buccola for his public expression of support for the Constitution, the city manager, the mayor, and city attorney engaged in, quote, unprofessional behavior that reflects poorly on the city and the department, end quote. And clearly, as stated in the letter, quote, this pattern of behavior is not acceptable. As a side note, the unfortunate timing has no bearing on the rights guaranteed in the U.S. and Michigan Constitution, and it is your behaviors in violating the Constitution that convey the dangerous message. Chief Buccola took that oath of office seriously, and his commitment to it did not end the day he was illegally forced to resign. He should be made whole, and the community needs to be reassured this unconstitutional behavior will never happen again in Lowell. With that in mind, Chief Buccola is willing to forego what is rightfully owed to him if the city agrees, number one, to keep him on the payroll through November 21st at 40 hours a week. Number two, this will include and not be in addition to his accrued vacation and personal time. Number three, such pay will continue to include the deductions that he would normally be receiving, such as for his retirement. Number four, among other things, Chief Buccola will be willing to forego the additional $400 monthly payment he was receiving in lieu of insurance. Number five, the city will issue an official statement that, quote, the city of Lowell stands with Chief Buccola in his support of the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, expressing support for the rights guaranteed to individuals under those constitutions is not a personal feeling, nor is it up for political debate. It is the very thing each public official is sworn to do under Article 11, Section 1 of the Michigan Constitution of 1963. While the chief was originally forced to resign, that issue has been resolved, and both the chief and the city agreed to a beneficial separation, wherein the chief entrusts the city to continue supporting and enforcing the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, end quote. This agreement would completely resolve everything between you. So we ask you each today to take your oaths of office seriously, to remember that you are required to support the U.S. and Michigan constitutions, whether you like them or not, and that a huge legal battle can be avoided, allowing the community to heal if the proper action is taken now. But as Chief Buccola is also tasked with defending those constitutions, we will need your agreement in short order to avoid the legal action he would otherwise be forced to take in order to abide by that oath. And there are two other individuals that would like to speak during public comment time on the same line.
Okay.
I have a question
No.
for Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Can someone make comments for 2, 3, 4 people and then end up with 20 minutes? I mean,
I had two people I spoke on behalf of.
She did it in under 10 minutes. We're gonna let the other 2 people talk for 5 minutes.
Right here, right here. Speak right into this.
My name is Jamie Lett. You might have seen me at the march on June 7th. I've got talking points I'd like to bring up here. Number 1, behavior unbecoming and personal opinion on social media. As reported in the FOIA report, that seems to be one of the reasons why Chief Buccola was forced to resign. Let me bring up Mike DeVore, April 10th. You have COVID comments on your personal Facebook page. Let me read a couple of the highlighted ones. Number 4, the people who act like it won't happen to them are the people making it worse and making it take longer. Number 6, complying as difficult as it is will shorten the time we're all miserable. Number 9, you're not cool or a rebel for not following the order. You're an idiot and a danger. Okay, how about a screenshot that was sent to me? Also, Mike DeVore, conversation with Jeff Robertson regarding sexual activities on June 7th. Here we go. And I did a Google search. It looks like you're maybe talking about hockey players. It says, and Pierre McGuire with a throat full of Crosby. And then another person says, you heard him harshly choking as well. Mike DeVore, hard. Him and Bettman are going to F so hard later. These were sent to me from your city citizens. Let's go to Cliff Yankovic. Cliff's Riffs, a blog, which clearly states at the top of the header, is his own personal opinion. Number 2, 2A writes, not being supported by your local PD is not only hypocritical, but against their oath. Number 3, regarding the 4 young men, no other country in the world would turn away support from its people who mean to protect us from others who would do us harm and damage our community as well. Every other country in times of crisis, such as rioting and looting, would call upon their citizens to protect their homes, businesses, and other citizens against powers foreign and domestic that mean to infringe upon our safety and way of life. This is why we have the Second Amendment to begin with. Number 4, regarding pension, I think due to all of this, Chief Bucula should be able to receive his full pension at age 55, not 65. I have personally seen other departments also try to do pension retention or revoking, and I plan to personally make Chief Bucula my poster child for LEO's rights and fair treatment. We have a war on cops going on once again in this country. Since we have already received national attention, I plan to push harder if need be for fair treatment. Thanks to all of the lovely social media platforms and 2A groups, I feel we can get our agenda out there very easily. Number 5, I will have a petition circulating very shortly for the removal of City Manager Mike Burns, and also for Mike DeVore if need be. Being that Mike DeVore is an elected official, I think we can get enough votes into the city council meeting so the city of Lowell is forced to make him resign or push his removal. Thank you, that's all I have.
Okay. You have one
Amy?
more there?
Mayor DeVore,
Yes.
I need Amy's spelling of her last name and address, please.
Okay.
Last name, L-E-T-T. Address is 12790 Heim Street, H-E-I-M, and that's Lowell, Michigan.
Thank you.
Hello?
Catherine, you guys have one more there?
Yes, one more.
One more.
Okay.
Bradley Wade, 12991 Ryan Ridge, Lowell, Michigan. I'm here to speak on behalf of Mr. Bucula this evening. Number 1, as a business owner. Number 2, a citizen, and what I believe what happened to him in my personal opinion, which is, again, my opinion, was sandbagging. City Council asked the chief to make a post on social media to let the community be aware of what's going on in Lowell, and the chief did so in being in that request. And then shortly thereafter, that request was submitted and he posted that. You guys nitpicked, or somebody nitpicked and picked apart word for word and sentence for sentence what was said verbatim. He did what you guys asked, and then you guys turn around, council, whoever, and then forced him to resign. Number 1, I am a huge advocate and supporter of 2A. What happened here in town? Number 1 was a huge disappointment on the community's reaction to it. The community reacted terrible, and all of the negative feedback was what was the highlight. I do not believe that he did anything wrong. He did not do anything unlawful, and he supported the Second Amendment of our Constitution that's given to us as Americans, as free Americans. And he got stomped on. And to see people stomp on somebody's life, their family, their business, it's terrible. I mean, to see a business do that is one thing, but to see humans do that to humans and know what he's going through and put him through that because he was supporting the United States Constitution and supporting the Second Amendment, because what those boys were supporting is completely wrong. I walked 1 month prior to him downtown Lowell, up and down Main Street with an American flag by myself and my son, with a sign that said, "Open up Lowell businesses and have the conversation." We did not have one conversation. But I did have people pull up to me in cars, and I did have business owners pull up to me in cars and say, "We love what you're doing. We need to support the Constitution. It's there for a reason." This got turned into a racial issue, which it should have never happened. Again, that goes back on the community and the response. The community's response was poor. What he did and what he stood for was for the Second Amendment. Didn't have anything to do with race. I hope you guys consider what's been presented to you today, and I hope you guys lay your heads down tonight, and I hope you guys pray about it. I hope you think about it, and I hope you discuss where you move forward from here. That is all.
Thanks, Brad. Catherine, are you guys all set?
I unmute. I actually muted them. They can unmute.
I'm asking if there was anybody else. I'm sorry, give me a second. We have dozens of people here. Anybody else that was wanting to speak? There was one more person that would like to speak.
We got more.
Right here.
I was a Lowell police dispatcher. I worked with Steve. I live in Ada, so I don't live in Lowell right now. Can you hear me?
Yep, can I just have your name and address, please?
My name is Alicia Daypre, 1260 Boynton Hills, Ada. As a police dispatcher, when I was working in Lowell, I wish we had had social media a little bit, because we'd have to do peddlers would come in, and they'd have to come in, and then people would call, and we're on phone calls with people complaining because somebody's going around. If we could have alerted them, a lot of people don't look at Facebook, but the ones that do, they wouldn't have had to call us, because as dispatchers, there was only one or two of us. We're taking other calls. So what he wrote was totally appropriate, because he was saying you don't need to call. It was very polite, and just saying that, they're aware of it. The Second Amendment is definitely, we had people that walked the street with open carry. We also had people, like I say, the peddlers. I don't even know if they still do that. Okay. So I just thought it was totally inappropriate how you guys actually put on what you put on Facebook. You should have dealt with Steve one-on-one, talked it over, because that would have been the most professional thing to do. And the fact that he has been a Lowell police officer for so long, and Lowell Police Department has never been racist. I can tell you that. Like I say, I worked there 10 years, and it was totally, and I know it's not now for the people that still work there. So I just wanted my say as a person that did work there.
Okay, thank you.
Is that everyone here? I believe that is everyone. Thank you very much for that opportunity to allow these others to speak.
Thank you. Mike, do you have anybody else?
Yep, we got one more. Bill Bledsoe. I will unmute him.
Can you just
Unmute. There we go. All right. Hello, my name is Bill Bledsoe. I live at 1180 Lincoln Lake, Virgins Township. I spend a lot of money in Lowell. I lived in Lowell for now 17 and a half years. My grandfather and father served in wars. My uncles all served in the military. My cousins, my brother-in-laws, my nephew just got back from Afghanistan, myself and my wife. We went and did what we did because we wanted everyone to have the same rights. And taking the Second Amendment, not that that's what happened, to help someone's First Amendment views is wrong. I do not judge people on color, sex, or anything else. Most people don't. Those boys had a right to do what they did and walk the street. Whether I agreed with it or didn't agree with it, that doesn't matter. The post that was put up there was preemptive to stop from overloading, causing panic, but instead it was hijacked by a handful of individuals who decided to make it into a giant issue because of a picture of a Confederate flag. Once again, I don't like Confederate flags. I didn't like them when I was stationed in the South, and I don't like them now. But it is not for me to tell somebody else how to believe or what they can have their picture taken with. They are responsible for their actions. Steve put a post up That's it. And he tried to defend our Constitution, which is what we're here for, what my family has done for years and many others. And they keep being infringed upon. Our rights keep getting taken and pressed on farther because it doesn't fit someone else's views. That is not correct. I've had nothing but positive dealings with the Lowell Police Department. Not that I've been pulled over, but I've met them several times. They're always very polite. The people of Lowell are good people, and we are being ransacked by a handful of people that are making a lot of comments. I completely agree with one of the earlier gentlemen that wrote in on how the social media makes these issues turn into fireballs. And that's what happened here. I ask and hope that if you don't bring back Steve, I would prefer that you did, and I do not know him personally. I've met him one time. That's it. I have no stake in this game, aside from the fact that I was proud that our police department was standing up for the rights of Americans, not 18-year-old kids from Hastings, not 90-year-old people, but Americans, like we all need to start acting like. We need to be tolerant of others' views when they're not harming ours. Instead, we were intolerant. There were people on Facebook, me included, that got involved in things and started talking without listening, with judging without facts. This issue can be resolved from the sounds of it, and I hope it is. I hope it is for Steve's sake. I hope it is for Lowell's sake. I have nothing else. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mike, do you have anybody else?
I do not.
Okay. Last chance for anybody who wants to dial in.
Actually, I do got one more. I'm sorry, I do got one more.
No, you're fine.
They just came up. Jim Myaard has been asked to unmute.
Jim, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so Jim Myaard, I live at 413 North Washington Street, and I wanted to listen for a while because I didn't want to pass judgment, because my initial reaction was Steve Bukula shouldn't be fired, period, for standing up to the Second Amendment. What I've heard so far does not change my opinion. He should get his job back, full pay, full benefits, and the people that are involved in this coup to get rid of him, I personally am totally disappointed in this. I can say a lot more negative, but I won't. I'll shut up now. But he needs his job back, and he needs it back now. So do the right thing, okay? Because I'll be watching. That's all I got. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We got one more. Jeff
Okay.
Dickerman, hang on. There we go.
Okay, Jeff Dickerman, 429 High Street. There's been a lot of discussion on both sides of this issue. I think the one thing we probably all agree on is that 5 city council members today need to affirm their resolve for this police department. And so I would, in the city manager provides recommended motion, be it resolved this 15th day of June 2020 that the Lowell City Council fully supports and will continue to fund the Lowell Police Department.
Are you still there, Jeff?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Mike?
Let me look. Don't believe so.
All right. I do want to say that for everybody who wrote in or dialed in, or I know it's not easy to give your opinion one way or the other. So if you took the time tonight to comment or you took the time to write in, we appreciate it. All right. Mike, do you have one more hand raised?
I don't see anything.
Okay. Give everybody one more minute here before we move on. I don't want anybody to get missed. Brian Bode has their hand raised again, Mike.
Yeah, they do. Okay. They're unmuted.
Okay. Catherine, you have one more there?
Yes, I just had someone that asked if we could have you guys turn, instead of having 5 minutes of talking for everybody here, if you could take 60 seconds and turn the camera on so that the people that are here in support of him could just simply have their presence seen. And then after 60 seconds, you can turn it back off.
Yeah, Mike, can you bring them up? We'll do a real quick shot just so they can all be seen, but I don't want it to get disruptive or anything. So
nope,
Mike,
instead of having everybody speak for 5 minutes, we just figured if you could at least see those here for 60 seconds, that's all we're asking.
Sure.
All right, let me find it.
Mike, can you remute them though, just so it doesn't
Yeah, I'll mute them. Hang on.
get disruptive for the rest of the people? We just can see how many people are there. It's not a bad idea.
There we go. There we go.
Help you, Steve.
How does this thing work?
Just swipe it. If you swipe to the left there, you can see all the camera views of everybody else. All right. We're good, Michael.
Okay.
All right. All set then with public comment?
No.
What?
Who said no?
Yeah, we have one more. Hang on, we have one more.
How do I raise my hand?
I think you got him because you unmuted. You'll have to give him your name and your number.
Hello?
I have Deborah. I don't have him raising his hand. I have a Deborah McDonald.
How do I raise your hand?
Yeah, Deborah McDonald raised her hand.
I'll unmute her.
Hi. Yeah, this is Deborah McDonald. I'm at 13445 Crestwood Drive. I'm not technically in the city limits, but I just want to say that the issue that I had with the posts from the second were the comments within the post, not the original post, but the comments within the post where people were expressing their concerns, especially when the concerns were brought up that the individuals were saying they had the support of the police department to go out and protect the city, which is kind of seems like a vigilante type thing. And so those concerns were raised, and the response back on those seemed to be, too bad, I don't care about your concerns. And that is the part that I think is just totally unprofessional, because it's the police chief of all of us, not just those who are 100% behind. And I have no problem with the Second Amendment rights, but to disregard the feelings and concerns of this other citizens of the town seemed inappropriate to me. That's all I have to say.
Oh, the comments that other people made? Well, yeah. Well, that had nothing to do with it.
Hold on. Who's talking without being recognized? We had Deborah McDonald commenting there, and then somebody talking over her. We're not going to do that. Mike, I have Michelle Zeidema with her hand up too.
Yep.
Deborah, I'm sorry, Deborah, were you all set?
I got to unmute her.
Yes, thank you. I'm all set.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, Michelle Zeidema's next, Michael.
Hello, I live at 9081 Conservation Street in Ada, Michigan. I own property on King Street in Lowell, and I'm a lifetime member of the Lowell Community School System. While I'm concerned about Steve Buchla and what was done to him, I am more concerned about the city of Lowell and property owners there, that we have at least 2 city council members who disregard constitutional rights of its citizens. I think that is an issue that needs to be addressed before the next police chief is hired. I certainly don't want, I don't want our city being represented by council members who don't uphold the Constitution that they were sworn to uphold. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, can you start muting people? There's a lot of background.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
There's another hand raised. There's not a name though. It's just a serial number. You see that one?
Yeah. Hang on. All right, he's being unmuted. They've been asked to unmute.
All right. If you have your hand raised there, it doesn't look like you have a name on your profile, but if you have your hand raised and you haven't been recognized yet, it's your turn. You just have to unmute yourself and you can have your 5 minutes.
Looks like they're muted. Unmuted.
Hi, my name is Olivia Geiger. I'm at 1245 Jane Ellen here in Lowell. I would just like to take the opportunity to thank and commend City Manager Mr. Burns for really doing his responsibility as a city manager and just giving Mr. Buchla, former Chief Buchla, the option to resign or be fired. And I'd like to take a moment just to remind the community that this is not about the Constitution. That's not why he was fired. It's about multiple code of conduct violations, very blatant code of conduct violations.
All right, thank you.
I don't have anyone else, Mike.
Hey, what about me? Hello?
I don't see it.
Just got to go up into, if you still do want to speak, you just got to go up into the right-hand corner. If you click that more button, it'll give you an opportunity to raise your hand.
I think there's a person who unmuted. I think this is the person who wants to speak. I believe it VIKICISU.
Yes.
Yep, okay, go ahead.
My name is Vicky Sue Condon. I am a veteran. I was born and raised in Lowell. I live in Key Heights. And I believe that what Steve did in notifying the city of Lowell that there were some young men with guns was a good thing. And the fact that he said that the Lowell Police Department stands up for and takes care of the Second Amendment rights is a good thing. The other issue that was mentioned in some of the reports about a picture with a mask on his elbow, he was standing outside the store. So that has nothing to do with what the city council did. But I stand behind Steve Buchla as a veteran and recognizing that we have our Constitution and he was upholding the Constitution. Thank you.
Becky, can you please spell your last name for me?
It's C-O-N-D-O-N.
Thank you.
All right, one last chance. I want to make sure nobody is left out if they did want to speak.
How do I raise my hand? Hello?
Just, are you on video or on the phone?
video
Under Marcy Johnson.
under Marcy Johnson.
Okay, oh, go ahead.
Hi. Just want to say I fully support Steve. Everything he's done for this community has been wonderful. I've only known him a short time, 10, 12 years. He's a wonderful human being. As far as for what he did, standing up for those young men, it was awesome. If we don't stand up now, what's going to happen to us? Our forefathers stood up, came over from another country to stand up for their rights. And now it seems like we don't even have rights no more. Every time we do something, we're wrong. We can't do this, we can't do that. What happened to the rights? What happened to the First Amendment? Second Amendment? What happened to the amendments? What happened to the Constitution? For that matter, seems like every time somebody wants to walk all over it, when they don't get their way, like little children are going to take their ball and go home. So, once again, I support Steve with all my heart and soul. I love you, brother.
Sir, can we just get your name and address, please, for the record?
Richard Eric Johnson, 1267 Valley Vista Drive, City of Lowell. Thank you.
All right, Patty has her hand up. Mike?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
hang on.
you.
Go ahead, Patty.
Thank you. I would like to express support for the decision that was made to release the duties of Steve Bukalab. Second Amendment rights are not in question. Social media as a platform for the chief of police supporting a group of gun-toting hooligans with Confederate flags flying in a time of great stress is the issue for Steve Bukalab's decision-making. And I fully support Mike Burns in giving him an ultimatum to resign or be fired.
Patty, do we get her name and address, Sue?
I have Patty Moger, but I do
Okay.
not
That's
have an
correct.
address.
605 Birchwood Court.
Thank you.
Thanks, Patty.
You're welcome.
I think Eric has his hand up too, Mike.
He does. I unmuted him.
Go ahead, Eric.
Hello, Eric Bartkus, 215 West Main. I've been listening and trying to understand everyone's point here. I couldn't understand Michelle Zeidema at all, and with the ringing and the background noise, and I think she should be able to restate her thoughts. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Michelle, if there is people who can't hear you and you did want to speak again, I was able to hear you pretty well, but if there was some people out there, if you want to raise your hand one more time, we can give you it.
I'm trying to figure out how to raise my hand again. Sorry, guys.
Oh, we'll take that. That's a hand raise. Go ahead.
Wonderful. As a property owner inside the city of Lowell and a Lowell Schools resident, I am very, very concerned that our Lowell City Council members do not uphold the Constitution. At least 2 of them don't. I am very concerned about the future of Lowell if we're going to have council members who do not uphold the constitutional rights of those citizens. While I am concerned for Steve Bukalab, and I think what was done to him was unjust, I am more concerned for what's going to happen to our city if we're going to be led by people who would do this. Our Constitution is the law of this land. It needs to be upheld. It needs to be respected, and it cannot be tread upon for personal opinions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Lillian Peterson. I think she's remuted there, Mike. On mine, it's remuted.
Yep. I asked her to unmute. There you
All right. Lillian, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Lillian Peterson. My address for the record is 14061 Covered Bridge Road. And I just want to express that I appreciate the decision to ask the police chief to resign. This is not a Second Amendment issue. The city issued several pages of documents explaining their decision to ask the chief to resign. He has clearly abused his power in the past, and his resignation was long overdue. There's no reason that our chief of police should be misusing police resources to stalk somebody. And the support of vigilante justice by young men who have publicly expressed interest in harming protesters is not the same as upholding the Second Amendment. So I appreciate the decision, and that's all for me.
All right, thank you. Last chance, anybody else? All right. Okay. Thanks again, everybody. I'm glad it was able to move smoothly and civilly, and I hope everybody out there who wanted a chance to talk got a chance to talk. So now we're going to move on to the agenda. We're going to old business, everybody. Number 4, letter A, 990 North Washington property. We're going to start that by having Susie read a letter she received from the Dietzels. Sue?
Okay, this is in regards to consideration of the proposed lease for us and their property for the 6/15/20 City Council meeting from Gary Dietzel and Sandy Bartlett. Respected citizens of Lowell, mayor, manager, and city council members, we're applying for a change in the thought about this for all of our futures. In the early March meeting, a member was absent, then the length of the lease was agreed upon, then the monthly price was suggested by one based on the current competitive market. That part was quite brief. The time now is exceptionally different and difficult. Federal, state, and county authorities are reliving affirming exceptions and wondering what is next for the less fortunate. We all deserve a reconsideration of this current issue by each of you. Some discussion and a vote that inhibits this matter. Kindly, the following behooves your regards. Residential commercial rental pricing, content with based on lapses between tenants, remodeling, necessary utility replacement, advertisement, lawyer leases, time, ongoing, usually implies constant maintenance, late payments, lawyers, evictions, etc. None of these apply. This proposed 2-year lease, conditional, doesn't provide any incentive for maintenance. We've bought a lot of exterior paint to start last year. Most of the many major improvements were done when rent was low. There are few left incentives. Please consider a longer lease and lower payments to maintain assets. It is a fragile situation for all of us. We all lose. Without us, consider this, we have nothing. Thirdly, as mentioned, you lack a plan. We have heard of a plan to survey out 3 properties here for the city coffers. I know a bit of this, and I know you have not thoroughly researched this to conclude that it is not a possibility without a plan, viable. You flounder at our expense a lot. It matters, forward, timely. To conclude, stress on everyone for leases of a 30 to 10 and now 2 matters. We've known a few managers and many council members. Research, give it up to something sustainable. The damage is done, let's repair. You can offer relief in our commitment. Thanks for your concern, Gary and Sandy.
Okay, thank you, Sue.
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah, a lot of my memo reflects that I tried to make contact with them and that they never stated anything to us. Well, we got the letter today. But I was directed in February to have the city attorney draft a lease which increases the current monthly rate from $450 per month to $500 per month beginning on July 1st, 2020, and then a $20 increase beginning on July 1, 2021. City Council also at the time directed me to prepare only a 2-year lease and they would review the future lease options for the property. I did present this lease to him in late March. He contacted me in April, asked to be present when he could, and provided some items that are attached in your memo. At the time, obviously, we've been meeting virtually, so for him to come meet us in person was not an option. I offered him the telephone option. He did not want to do that. I also spoke with his wife, Sandy Bartlett, and she is too, also asked to be present. I informed her also about what was going on with the virtual meetings, and she could phone in, and she said that she would do so as a last resort. I don't see them on tonight. What I presented to, the lease expires on June 30th that we are in now. I'm presenting you a lease based on what I was directed to do, and it meets your request. So it, we would need a council action to move forward.
Okay. That lease, I think Marty was absent that meeting, right, Marty, when we
Yes.
discussed the lease? Okay.
Yes.
Do you have anything on that, Marty? I'll give you first shot.
No, actually, I did watch the meeting on YouTube, so I didn't have any problem with anything that was said that night, and I was in full support of it that night. That's it.
Okay. Anybody else, Jim?
I'm in favor of going ahead with this. We had a lot of conversation. I think we did a good job of extending even a 2-year. And I'm in favor of having them sign it. If not, then I guess we need to take actions legally to what is our next step after that.
Yep. Cliff?
I'm good with it.
Okay. Greg?
I'm also good with it. Having been a landlord for 20 years, you know, I understand there have been some concessions by mostly commercial landlords, but the $500 a month is less than half of what the market is. I know they'd like to see it stay a little bit lower, but I think they'll reflect the they've done on the place to fix it up. Fair balance for everyone and free to move forward with it.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's well below market rate for a house with that much land. I think 18 months is a fair amount of time for them to come up with a backup plan if they don't like it. I don't think the city needs to be in the landlord business. And I think they've lived there for a very long time, and that allowed them, I think, some leverage in getting the additional 18 months.
Mike, actually, it's 24.
I was gonna say, isn't it?
Is it 24, Mike?
Yes, it's 24.
Okay,
Yes.
24 months. All right, that works. All right, then, if nobody has anything else, I'll look for a motion to approve executing that lease and presenting it to the Dietzels to be signed.
I'll make that we approve the lease for 990 North Washington.
Support.
All right. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Sue?
Mayor DeVore,
No.
Councilmember Salzweedl,
Yes, to approve it, yes.
Councilmember Yankovic,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
and Councilmember Canfield.
Yes.
All right. That, Mike, you can present that to him and report back.
Okay.
All right. Number 2, item B, 1920 budget amendments. Mike?
Yep, this is our annual end of the year budget amendments. We did have a number of amendments like we always do every year. To the general fund, we had about $96,000 in additional revenue projected compared to what we had budgeted. That's mainly due to some of the grants we received for the Ware Road project and also marijuana fees. We took about $20,000 in on marijuana for the year. Our expenditures for the general fund, we did have about $84,000 in increases from budgeted, mainly Ware Road. That was our biggest expense. We did have some items that we had budgeted that we didn't complete, which gave us a budget saving, which allowed us to offset some of those costs. Also, obviously, with all of the items that we've had, our legal bills are about $25,000 higher than what we projected with all of the things that we've had to deal with. Those are the real major issues. There were some minor issues in the major street fund, local street. Actually, we did start doing some projects out of the major street fund, so that did actually increase the expenditure there. The local street funds, we also did a project that we originally didn't budget there, so that's where there's some items there. The rest of the budget, they were relatively small. We did carry out some of our grants that we received. We finally were able to complete the sidewalk grant that we received, the library capital project that we received the grant from LCTV on, and we finally were able to complete the wayfinding project that I believe that had been sitting for a number of years. So if anyone has these specific questions, I can probably answer them.
All right, Greg?
One of the reasons that helped us on expenses was we pushed up $50,000 DPW building cemetery,
Correct.
I'm assuming. Is that going to happen next year? Back burner long term?
I believe we're just going to do the painting next year. A lot of that had to do with trying to get the sexton into the Public Works building. That was the previous director's goal and initiative. Since a lot of things have changed since that point, we don't necessarily think we need to do that. I do know that we are planning to do painting next year. The windows, we're going to try and wait a little bit longer on the windows. That was another budgeted item. I'm trying to see if I can get Dan on here to see if he has anything to add. Hang on, let me unmute him. Dan, you have anything to add?
No, it was the windows we were going to try to do and hold off on the painting.
Okay, my
Different.
mistake.
Yep, no problem.
If I recall correctly, there were quite a few cracks from separation of the brick. Has that been taken care of? Or is that done?
The brick at the building?
Yeah,
I'm not aware of that one. I'll look into it though.
Yeah, there were some separations when I was in there a while ago and talked about there was some recalking and what do you call it?
Greg again.
The contribution by the stall end up here that following.
I'm sorry, Greg, I didn't get your question.
Yeah, your audio's breaking up pretty bad.
The Stahl family contribution of $75,000, I don't see that.
We actually haven't received that yet.
Okay. Last question. And I'm on the airport board, but it conflicts with Parks and Rec, so I don't make all the meetings or majority, but airport fuel sales sold more than anticipated at $15,000. Airport expenditures, fuel purchase for the airport was $22,000. It sounds like we paid $3,000 more than we sold it for.
Yeah, I could probably have Casey Brown give you an answer on that.
We probably just need to raise our fuel.
Probably do.
That's
All right. Cliff?
Sir?
Anything?
No, sir.
Marty?
Nope.
All right, motion then to approve resolution 1720, which is our budget amendments for the end of the year.
I make a motion to approve our budget amendments.
And I'll support.
Any other discussion on it? Sue?
Councilmember Salzweedl,
Yes.
Councilmember Yankovic,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Canfield,
Yes.
and Mayor DeVore.
Yes. Tonya North, garden sale update, Mike.
Let me unmute her, hang on.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So the garden sale went really, really well. Still recovering today. I guess my biggest feedback would be we still had trouble. We did 10 more signs. Getting the signs at that corner was tricky. We did do a chalkboard sign, but I had people tell us they still had trouble finding us, so we need to do a better job with the signage. The Kona ice truck was there Sunday, and he said he had drove by Saturday and had no idea where it was. Went right by it. So it's one of the reasons we were looking for the frontal space along the road. Hope to do that. But and then Sunday was a lot quieter. It was a nice steady pace of people, and we did real well with our sales. Sunday was a lot quieter, and we had participants who didn't want to stay for Sunday, and I signed them up for that. I agreed to that right from the beginning, just to make sure that I got some people there on Saturday. We had about, gosh, I didn't even do a full count, about 12 people. And I asked on Saturday, I went around to each one of them and I said, if, you know, just to get their feedback, how they did and would they participate again? And they said, oh, absolutely. So they all had, we had about 3-4 artisans in there, gal who did lotions, and every single one of them said they would definitely participate again. We also had a few people approach me saying they would like to participate, and we would like to do it again and rotate. But one of the concerns was nobody really wanted to do Sunday again, and it was hard enough to get people to commit Sunday. So my dealers, our group, said they would prefer to do a Friday, Saturday if we did a 2-day again. And we would like to get permission to go forward and try to do one a month going forward, with the option of doing Friday and Saturday, but in some instances, we may only do a Saturday.
All right. Anybody have any questions or comments for Tonya?
Tanya, this is why I suggested the city parking lot across the street, was to get you lots of exposure, lots of room. You know, being back there, I had a feeling you were going to be lost in the drive-bys, and you know, that's sad because it was a good event. But
well, if given the choice, Marty, I appreciate that sentiment. Again, I mean, I do think there's value in being on Main Street, but the parking situation over there is not as good. We would not have had the same atmosphere. Everybody loved being along the river. There was a ton of comments about what a nice area that was, and I really very much appreciate Perry Beecham stepping forward, because another big, huge factor was our ability to use that building. I know that's going to be a discussion coming up on whether or not you guys decide to accept that bid. I will just say that I would love to be able to use that building / and/or buy it. I had no idea it was going up. So I have myself and one other person that's interested in it. So I don't know if that's going to be a situation. You guys can wait and see what happens. I understand that we missed that opportunity, but I'm hoping you see that maybe this was just a bad time to accept those bids on that.
Okay, that's a separate agenda item.
Yep, I understand. So anyway, it was huge to have that building. A lot of work that goes into that, and we're all sore today, but it was a success. There's no doubt about it. I think we can pull off even more successful events. I hope most of the merchants saw increase in traffic and errors as well. It looked like there were people participating with eating at restaurants and whatnot. I know Kona Ice said they would come back also, and they only did Sunday for the few hours. We would hope to do it again and have some food trucks and some other things there if we were able to do that.
Okay, thank you. All right, anybody else? All right, we'll look forward to her next proposal then. Item D, Lowell Light and Power Line Shack RFP. Mike, is Steve in this meeting?
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute him real quick.
All right.
Go ahead, Steve. I'll let you read your memo.
Good evening. Thanks, Mike. Good evening, Mayor, City Council. As you know, in September of 2019, the Light and Power Board recommended to the City Council that the city pursue a sale of Lowell Light and Power Line Shack, 115 Riverside Drive, pursuant to guidelines in the city charter. Lowell Light and Power, we've had this building for a long time now. We don't have any use for it. Frankly, it's costing us money, masonry work, leaky roof, things of that nature. So ultimately the board last year made the recommendation to council to sell that building through the RFP process. And on November 4th of 2019, the council accepted the Light and Power Board recommendation and directed Mike Burns, our legal counsel, and I to draft an RFP and publish that in the ledger and to the public. That was done in late March, and the response date to the RFP was June 1st. So the RFP was out there approximately 2 months. One proposal was received from Todd Shaw and Jerry Zanstra, their Estes group, and that proposal was to build condominiums, and the purchase price that they proposed was $76,000. Ultimately, after discussion at the Light and Power Board meeting last Wednesday, the Light and Power Board is recommending that the City Council reject the loan proposal that was received for a couple reasons. Really, there was a lot of talk about the building being valued at $100,000. Now, I know there wasn't a minimum price to the building, but Mike Burns, in your packet, included the assessor's report and calculation of how they came up with that $100,000 amount. And then second, there was a concern by the board that, due to the COVID pandemic, which is unprecedented really in our country, there may have been a lot of pause from others that potentially may have wanted to bid, but with the financial uncertainty and the economic uncertainty, they may not have done so. So for the $76,000 price, it really didn't move the needle of Lowell Light and Power, and they would prefer to reissue the RFP sometime in the future and hope to encourage more participation and get more bids. So I'd take any questions from the council at this time.
All right, let's go right in order. Cliff?
I agree that the timing could not have been worse to put a piece of property up for sale, and I think we should wait a while, let things shake out a little bit, and see if we get more interest.
Jim?
I'm not approved to accept our offer. We continue to weigh this out over time, and we may not get any other bids, or the economy may not get any better between now and when we think we want to put it out.
Could Jim say that again? He broke up. I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to taking their proposal due to the, we don't have any idea what the economy is going to be 6 months or a year from now. Will there be a second wave of COVID, and who knows? And, we get a legitimate offer. We ask for it. We ask for more, but we got the one, and sometimes that's just how it goes. No guarantee we're going to get more. So that's
Greg?
my.
Thanks, Jim. Greg?
I would just soon that we reissue it. My problem is that it had minimum bid of 100,000, and so that may have kept, but we're willing to bid 90 out of it. So I really have trouble with taking less than we said the bid was.
So when I submitted the bid to Jessica to review, I put in a minimum bid of 100,000, and that was taken out. Jessica had advised, yeah, we didn't put it in.
Okay.
We talked about it, but once I sent it to the attorney to review, she took it out.
All right, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Marty? Oh, sorry, Greg. I'm sorry.
I agree the timing could have been worse. I think that value is probably higher than the 76,000. Who knows how much more? I don't know if it's our decision or the Light Power Board's, but there was no minimum, and you've got one bid.
It is the city council decision. Lowell Light and Power cannot own real property. Light and Power has maintained, occupied, paid for the building, etc. So it is a city council decision. It was a unanimous 5-0 vote, though, for the Light and Power Board to recommend to council to not accept the bid. And in the RFP, there was language detailing out that the council had the right to reject any bid or all bids.
Marty?
Well, I sit on that board, and unfortunately, I never received my packet for that night. I didn't find this out until Thursday when I called Steve to tell him that I didn't. So I wasn't part of any of that discussion. I wish I would have been. I mean, how long do you want to drag it out? You know, you get one bid and that's the bid. The minimum of 100,000 was never put in there. But if you buy real estate, you throw a number at it and you hope you can get it. It's, you know, so I guess I'm with Jim in this. It's, I see no issue of receipt taking one bid, but that's my opinion.
All right, I agree too. I mean, we put this RFP out. I don't think that, I don't know how much the COVID pandemic really affected anything, because we talked about an RFP a couple years ago and we didn't have a lot of interest in it either. I don't think there's a minimum. It's already been said publicly that this building has no use to light and power, and it's costing them money. And then just last meeting, we talked about bonding money for upgrades to the system. And I don't understand why we'd be borrowing money and then the following meeting turning down a chance to make 76,000. So I'm confused by that double narrative. I think there was probably, and I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure there was probably some personal opinions and feelings that went into the light and power discussion. I wasn't at the meeting either. We put out an RFP. We followed the process. There was one bid for real money. You want to put it out again because of a pandemic that we don't even know had any effect on it. So then what if it comes back 0 bids, 0 interest, and then we sit on it and it continues to cost us money, or it deteriorates and falls in the river, or something else happens? I don't know why you would turn down a chance to make $76,000 for a building that costs you money and has no use to you. So that's just my opinion.
Yeah, if I may, I agree. It's speculating that we don't know the ultimate impact of the COVID crisis, but I mean, if we think back to April and May, there was a great deal of economic and financial uncertainty. And I personally have been contacted in my 4-ish years of being a general manager by 3 separate parties interested. And when we talked about it a handful of years ago, at the time, it was split between a sale and a lease. So the RFP process would have been a lease. And due to the charter, you know, I think there's only a 10-year lease maximum. So we, to my knowledge, we've never issued the building out through an RFP before this. I agree, it's $76,000. But I don't know, we had the item before, Tanya, you know, she didn't realize the building was for sale, and she talked about her potential interest.
But at the same time, we followed the process we always follow. So are we punishing people that submitted their bid through the process by saying a couple of people didn't see it? So I don't know. I don't understand. We had a process. There was only one bid. I don't know. I guess we just need a motion either way to accept or reject Light and Power's proposal. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Greg. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was under the impression there was the 100,000 minimum was my reason in opposing it. I think that if we put it out there for bid, we got bid. The proposed bidder is doing things locally to improve things in Lowell. They've started the project, and I think the revenue for the, I think we need to learn a lesson here that if we're going to sell something, why wouldn't you put a sign on it? I mean, I think we probably lost some money by not advertising to all the buyers. Somebody right next door that was interested didn't know about it. So lesson to us. And we've done this before. Proposals that were put out in a spot that nobody would ever. And we just got to do a little better job of marketing whatever we're trying to attract or look at the avenues that we use to advertise it. But I would make a motion to accept 76,000, the only bid.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Sure.
If you do take action to do this, to sell the property, are you going to want me and the city attorney to prepare some sort of a development agreement? I guess the only concern, and I'm not saying this will happen, but my experience has been that the biggest thing is if you sell a property and it sits for 5-6 years, have you done yourself a disservice? So would you want a development, if you were to take action, would you want a development agreement?
I would like to see something. I would imagine it would probably go to planning first though, right? Before it came to council?
No, the development,
No?
that's, you're thinking of a PUD.
Yes.
There would
Yep.
be a separate, as part of the sale, you would have a development agreement that, you know, they would give them X amount of time to complete whatever they want to do. And maybe to make sure they do it. The biggest thing is obviously the economy could go south. We don't know, but the biggest thing is, you know, you sell a property to someone, they hold it for 5-10 years, flip it to someone else. I don't know if that's what you want to do.
I would like to see something in there that's a development agreement. I don't know that the time frame has to be. I think the time frame would be negotiable based on you know what they're planning or whoever or what they're planning to do. But I don't think it's a bad idea to put it in there because if it ends up falling into the river anyway, we're no better off than we were. You know what I mean? Or if it becomes an eyesore to the businesses near it. So, yep, I don't have a problem. Greg, did you want to amend your motion then to include that?
Yeah, I think that is a good idea. I mean, we did that with the Unity property before the current owner held it. That just sat there in blight for a few years. So I think a 3-year window of development, I put that up to the manager and how they write the language. I mean, it's not like we're going to buy it back in 3 years if they haven't done anything. Do that, but I think we do something happen with it. A prime property, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't keep it. And when I was Light Power Board, you get 75 or 100 for it, and that's a blip gone. And there's some opportunity for bathrooms. This little festival in Laconia, I think it's worth more than 75, but I guess we take the bid.
All right. Greg's motion then. As
Mr.
I'm
Mayor,
hearing-
you have a comment. You have a comment on the floor.
Oh, hang on.
Eric Barkas.
All right, Eric, go ahead.
Eric Barkas at 215 West Main. I just want to say that it was very difficult for the average person to try to value that property and to put in a bid without knowing much about the process. If like a live auction would have been a much fairer way to determine the real value of the property. I know you have to consider what the use is, but I had no idea, again, what the value was or how much to bid, and people could have overpaid or underpaid in bidding in the way that it was done. So if you would possibly consider something more like a live auction in the future, that would have helped me. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. All right. We have a motion from Greg to accept the only bid contingent on an agreed upon development plan. Greg, is that how I understand it? I'll support that motion. Any discussion or concern? Sue?
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Councilmember Canfield,
Yes.
Mayor DeVore,
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl,
Yes.
and Councilmember Yankovic.
No.
All right, last thing under old business, water and sewer rates. Mike?
Yep, in April, I asked the city council what they wanted me to budget for in regard to water and sewer rates. If you recall, we had a rate study for our water and sewer rates in accordance to the stormwater asset management grant we received. The study recommended a 6% increase to our water ready to serve and commodity charges and 2% on our wastewater ready to serve and commodity for our customers. To the average residential customer who uses a 5/8 meter and consumes 3,000 gallons a month, this is a $2.67 increase, monthly increase to their water and sewer bills, with rates varying as the meter size increases. That said, I recognize the reluctance of the city council to not raise rates, while municipal financial advisors would always advise to recommend a small increase annually to account for inflation. The current approved budget was not approved with those increases when I submitted it to you on April 20th, 2020. We will need to issue debt to complete the water and sewer utility projects on Monroe Street and Washington Street, and rates will need to reflect proper debt coverage. Administration was planning on completing the utility work on Washington beginning in spring of 2021 and Monroe in spring of 2022, as there were transportation funds earmarked for 2022 on Monroe. The projects are necessarily for the reliability of our water and sewer system, so I would propose, as I discussed before, we would flip Washington Street from spring of 21 to spring of 23. That said, we run the risk of maybe a slighter increase when we do begin those projects, possibly. When I brought this to you in April, you asked me to bring this back in June, and I'm seeking input from the council on further on how you want to handle this. And once directed, I will move forward as we discussed.
All right, let's start this time with Jim.
I'm a little disappointed about the delay, but I understand the reasonings why. So I'm okay with what we're doing there.
Okay.
Cliff?
When was the last time we had an increase?
Last July 1 of last year. We raised sewer, I believe, 5% on the rate ready to serve in the commodity, and we raised water 2.75% on ready to serve in the commodity.
Thanks.
Marty?
If we're gonna issue debt, when are we planning on doing that?
We'll probably have a notice come to you pretty soon. I have to talk to USDA, but probably that process will probably sometime late 2021.
So the $2.67 a month increase for the average homeowner, that should cover the cost of the bonding and all that, correct?
Yeah, I'd want to have the financial advisors look at it again, but yes, it may inflate a little bit next year, because once we did those rates, we were anticipating 2% annually on both the water and the sewer charges as part of our process.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, because when we were in Frankenmuth, this was a hot discussion, hot topic. Every community doesn't want to raise their rates, but they have to, because maintenance has to be done. All kinds of things have to get done, improvements, and so I guess I'm good with it. Make it go forward.
Greg?
I think we should raise rates. It's a little bump now. It'll help. My years on the light and power board, better to have small increases more often than big ones. And I'm hopeful that the economy isn't going to crash. I think we're going to pull back out of this in the next, but I am seeing some inflation. I think we're going to see more inflation than we've had. Affect a lot. So I would rather $267 a month is $30 a year. And I think that it's a better long-term move, but.
All right. I remember when we were first elected, or at least I believe it was just Greg and I at the time, but there was a talk about how they had not done increases on certain things. And the scare was that these increases were going to have to be, I don't know what we talk about, Mike, somewhere in the 30% range.
Well, yeah, that would have been tracking our bond debt on a revenue bond. But one of the problems you run into normally is, like, for example, I know of communities, I think I worked in one, where they haven't raised rates for 11 years. And the problem comes is when you have to raise rates, you're doing massive increases.
Yep. And
Every financial advisor would every financial advisor would tell you to do a little bit at a time.
And that was what Marty was talking about a lot of the discussion in Frankenmuth was these newer councils are finding they never had a ready to serve charge, and they just had to guess how much water or electric or gas you're using. And then you come to these people and say, hey, we've been doing it wrong for 30 years. We need to increase and just drive you right out of any kind of responsible monthly bill. So I think it's better to limp it along a little bit every single time, take a little load off the bond, and also not throw a huge increase on people 5 years from now. Surprise, we were nice to you when we were on council, and then we leave it for another council to have to tell these people it's a 15% increase, or I don't think that that's fair. So I guess if we're all in agreement, somebody can make a motion to proceed with the 6% increase to ready to serve and commodity and 2% to wastewater.
Yeah, so 6% on the water ready to serve and commodity, 2% on the, let me double check that. I believe it's 2% on the ready to serve and commodity for sewer.
Okay.
Yep, 2%.
Less than $3 a month.
Yeah, I'll make that motion to support it.
I'll support his support.
All right. Any other discussion, questions for Mike?
Nope.
All right, Susie.
Councilmember Canfield,
Yes.
Mayor DeVore,
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl,
Yes.
Councilmember Yankovic,
Yes.
and Councilmember Chambers.
Yes.
All right, only one thing under new business, wastewater plant digester number 3 repair. Mike.
Yes, in the upcoming fiscal year 2020-2021 budget, we budgeted a repair to the digester number 3 lid at the wastewater treatment plant. Suez had the ability to complete this work as a maintenance item under the current agreement. The work would entail removing and disposing of the existing coating, all 2 inches of the concrete topping, and a hollow core concrete planking. Preparing top for the tank for installation of the aluminum geodesic dome, installing the aluminum geodesic dome over the existing tank, and terminating the electrical connections for existing mixers, and completing site restoration. Suez proposes the cost for this work not exceeding $135,181, which came in much lower than Williams & Works' engineering estimate of $175,000. This work will be paid over 2 fiscal cycles. 50% will be due on completion, and the remaining 50% will be due on July 1, 2021 to alleviate our budget constraints. There's an agreement with Suez attached to complete the work. I'm recommending the Lowell City Council approve for Suez to complete the repairs to the digester number 3 lid at a cost not to exceed $135,181. And I believe Brian's here if you have any questions for him.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Brian?
I do.
Go ahead, Marty.
Brian, what's the timeline on that, start to finish?
Brian, you got to unmute yourself.
You got to unmute yourself.
All right, let's try this again. The lead time on the aluminum dome is somewhere between 10 and 13 weeks. We hope to have it completed yet this fall.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else? Oh, sorry, Brian.
I don't have a question from Brian, but is there a reason why this did not go out to bid, or it didn't need to go out to bid and we just got the one? I'm happy with the price while on the budget, but I'm just asking the question.
We didn't bid this because we treated this as part of their maintenance agreement. Now, if you want to go bid it, we can. That's not an issue.
Part of the incentive I'll throw out there is that we're willing to split it between your 2 fiscal years.
Yeah, I saw that. Payment wise, yes.
And I think there's something to be said about people actually using the equipment, doing the work. I think you're probably going to get a little more pride in workmanship if you have the company that's using the equipment, fixing the equipment. You're not going to get a hit and run type of deal where they just fix it to get their invoice paid and then leave. So I think that bears some weight.
The other
Cliff? Oh, sorry, Jim. Go ahead.
Oh, I have one more. Brian, are there subcontractors that you're bringing in to do the concrete work and the dome, or are you? I can't believe you and sorry, Marty.
Cody,
I can't believe you two are just doing all the work.
No, we have a subset of Suez, our mechanical service group.
Okay.
They'll do the removal and the prep work. We'll have a third-party subcontractor, the supplier of the actual aluminum dome. They'll manufacture it and install the dome itself.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Greg?
No, I think Suez has done a great job. I think the fact that their crews on site allows them to do it more effectively than anybody else that we'd sent it for. And the fact that it came 40,000 under the estimates, I'm glad. I'm normally the see more bids, but the companies that we're working with, both with the estimates and Suez doing it, I'm good with this.
Okay. Cliff?
I was just going to say a lot of what Greg said. I have a lot of confidence in Suez, and I agree with your point that I would rather have the guys that actually work there keeping their eyes on it and being part of it than putting it out. And it came in under what Williams and Works thought it would be. And they're going to give us 2 years to pay for it. Sounds like a win-win to me.
Marty?
Yeah, Suez does a wonderful job for us. Think about this. It's one of the big things that we never seem to have break down. It always works. They're always there. And there's reasons Suez throughout the years has been running that system. So I am very good with doing it. So I don't have any problem with it.
All right. A motion then for Suez to complete the repairs to the digester number 3 lid. Cost not to exceed $135,181.
I'll make that motion that Suez do the repairs to biodigester lid. Geez, I said that bad word. Sorry. Digester number 3 lid at no cost. At cost not to exceed $135,181.
And I'll support.
If that wasn't a motion, I would have muted you. Any other discussion on it? Sue?
Mayor DeVore,
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl,
Yes.
Councilmember Yankovic,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
and Councilmember Canfield.
Yeah.
All right. That's all the agenda items. Let's go to any questions for Mike or anybody else on any of the monthly reports. Greg, you're off my main screen now, so if you raise your hand, I won't be able to see you. You'll just have to yell at me if you have anything. Board and commission reports, Jim.
Board and commission reports got nothing.
Cliff.
Chamber Zoom. We should be seeing the 4 pieces of the showboat before the end of the month.
Awesome.
Also, Liz and I will probably be working on a survey of business owners as far as the impact of the COVID pandemic. And the best news I got out of the meeting is Betsy Davidson had a full PET scan and it's looking good.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yep. Cool. Thanks, Cliff. Marty?
Let's see. Planning Commission, we went back over and hit it, highlights. We had a problem with Zoom. We had people that couldn't get in for the 2 new medical marijuana or the recreational marijuana facilities here in town. We allowed them to come back. The church across the street from the, I forget the automotive store, but they came and had their say in their, and then we redid everything with Andy present. And Light and Power, I thought it was Thursday, ended up being Wednesday, but it wouldn't have mattered anyway because I didn't have my packet, so it was never emailed to me. So Steve took care of that, and they basically went over what we just talked about the line check building and other things. They had 8 topics or agenda items to go. So that's it.
They probably heard you were going to say biodigestion. That's why they didn't send you a packet. Greg?
The Lara board did not, Dave Austin was out of town. We're going to meet next month and tomorrow night.
All right. Fire Authority did meet in person. I forgot it was Monday and was 15 minutes late, but they were nice enough to wait for me. We have severed our agreement with Peter Letzman, the previous Fire Authority attorney. We're going to look at either using Dickinson Wright or Jeff Sluggett or Virgins Township's attorney or a different outside attorney. Just looking at some fresh blood there. Got an update on the boat. I think Marty will have more on that later. We checked at some budget stuff, and I did get the consultant's draft report. That consultant that we agreed to hire to do a study. I am going to have a conference call with him tomorrow. And then as soon as I get the final report, I'll be getting that out to you guys so you can review it. There won't be a rush on it. The Fire Authority doesn't meet again until after our next council meeting. So won't be till the second meeting in July. So you'll have plenty of time to look it over and jot down your thoughts and stuff. So it's a pretty comprehensive report. Most of the highlights I've seen, it looks like they're hitting every topic we want to. We'll just have to wait and see what their opinions are on those topics. And that's all I have. Mike, City Manager report.
Sure. Last Wednesday, the Showboat Committee met. We reviewed the 3 proposals we had for the general contractor for the showboat. The committee and our consultants reviewed the 3 bids, and we are reaching out to all 3 bidders and submitting a post addendum to verify items in their bid. Once we have that complete, we may request for value engineering in their bids. Once we have our answers to those items, we'll be coming to the City Council with a recommendation on a general contractor. The showboat will be arriving and assembly will begin the week of July 7th. Last week, Dan, Ryan Teachworth, Steve Donkersloot, and I met with Moran to work out some logistical issues for their site needs. They're going to be on site for 8 weeks completing assembly. Our first restaurant has submitted their application and been approved for using our public spaces. Flat River Grill made a request, and they'll be using a portion of the Riverwalk for their needs. They're basically they're going to split the access area of the Riverwalk. They're going to have a couple tables by the river, and it will not impede any access in and out of the Riverwalk. Marty already mentioned the Planning Commission. I also took an application today for a grow and processing facility at the old baseball batting cage lot. I believe it's 2335 West Main. So we're now beginning that site plan review. Suffolk, we began Suffolk Street construction last week. They did start milling on Friday, and they are working towards it. One of the nice things about this project is our contractor, they do their own milling. So one of the things that usually happens with a major construction project is they'll come, grind everything down, mill the project, and then it sits for 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks. This time they'll be able to just come out, mill it, and start the work. So it kind of gives the impression that we're not trying to delay the project. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. We'll try appointments in July. Hopefully we'll be meeting in person. Council comments, let's go Greg first.
I'd like to thank everybody that joined us. Hopefully at our meeting, we'll be able to meet in person. And we did get a letter to the city council about disbanding the police department or defunding. The Lowell department is one of the great things about Lowell Light Power. Obviously, it's a financial thing, but I'm not get rid of the police department. Looked at it in a significant, and I just the police department and the citizens know we are not looking to do that.
All right, Marty.
I would like to take this time to thank Officer Van Slocum for helping with the assembly of the new boat that was purchased from Med's Cafe for the fire department. It's an awesome machine. He got a couple of motors that are, they'll run on anything from diesel fuel to whiskey, and you can run these motors underwater and they'll keep on going. The old boat was slow and couldn't hardly hold many people. The new boat, they can put up to 9 in it, much faster. They can get to where they got to get in a big hurry. There was little money left, and Ron actually bought new equipment for 4 people to be from the fire department to be in the boat to go on rescue. So we have a brand new boat, brand new motor, and new equipment, new safety equipment. So again, I'd just like to say, you know, officers get beat up a lot, but our officers tend to stand up and help, and I commend him for helping another department succeed and get the very, very best with his knowledge of how he can get things. It was amazing. So I thanked him the other day, and I just wanted to do it publicly. That's it.
Very cool. Cliff.
Greg mentioned Lara a couple minutes ago. Julie and I went out yesterday and walked the paved portion that of the rails to trails from Foreman up to Virgins, and it is wonderful, and it's going to keep going, and it was just great. There was a lot of people, bikes. I saw my first electric skateboard. This guy whizzed by us. Well, it's smooth, as you can imagine. They just put it down. It looks great, and it's going to be a great asset to Lowell when that whole thing's done.
Cool, thank you. Jim.
I'm good tonight, thanks.
All right. I've completely forgotten about this. There is a, not local, but Michigan-made clothing website called the Mitten State. Probably one of the softest shirts. I'm wearing one right now, Mickey Redmond. They have a Support the Trails t-shirt that they're putting out in June. If you order one, they do make a donation from every shirt to the North Country Trails. It's pretty cool. It has a Parks logo on the front, and then a whole trail map takes up the back of the t-shirt. So if you were thinking of trying to figure out how to give and didn't know, I've had fantastic luck with their other shirts too. They do a lot of national park stuff, Mackinac Island, local businesses. Anyways, they're doing one with the Grand Rapids Chamber as well, to help out with some money from COVID. I would like to also thank Scott Van Solcom. I know this isn't the first time he's put his expertise to work and helped us get something a lot better and a lot cheaper and probably a lot faster than we would have if he wasn't so knowledgeable and dedicated and diligent. And I know those fire guys are loving that new boat because the motor doesn't show up on any kind of radar, so they can go wherever they want. Nobody will ever know. I've gotten a couple letters too about disbanding, disfunding, or defunding, or whatever they're calling it, the police department. that police department is such a huge asset to the city, and it's packed with so many good people, and obviously we're always looking for a way to do better at every level of the city: council, light and power, police, DPW. So if there's a way to do better, I say let's do better. But to completely eradicate them or make it financially impossible for them to provide what I think is a really good service to this community, that's not something I would ever support as long as I'm on this council. So, you know
Mike,
what? I have a lot of other, yeah, sorry.
I wanted to hit on that subject too. My investigation into the whole defund the police, whoever came up with that made a huge mistake. Everything that I've read, what they're talking about is taking some of the burden off the cops. We expect them to enforce traffic laws, drug laws, this and that, and we expect them to be counselors to domestic violence. And that's my understanding. Number one, I think everybody knows that all of us support our police department. Last year, we made videos saying, no way do we want to get rid of our police department. But more importantly, I think it was a terrible choice of words, because actually, from my read of it, that effort is to make it easier on cops so that we're not asking them to cover so many bases that they can't possibly cover. Sorry.
And that is, thank you, Cliff, exactly the discussion I had earlier today. It was a terrible name. You could not have come up with a worse name. A simple thesaurus search about what you're trying to do would have been so helpful to this movement, because I think it overall does improve things for a lot of people. I just think it has a terrible name. I liken it back to when we called the realignment of High Street a vacation, and that one word that we chose incorrectly caused everybody to come out and yell at us for trying to give away a street. And wording is important. Wording is important. So I'm going to be very careful how I word this next thing. Jim.
To adjourn at 9:16.
I'll support.
Motion and a second. We do a roll call for that because of Zoom. Susie.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
Councilmember Yankovic.
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers.
Yes.
Councilmember Canfield.
Yes.
And Mayor DeVore.
An emphatic yes. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. I always appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night. Even